Good morning, everyone. Morning. My name is Keiichiro Hoashi. I am from KDDI Research. Hope all of you know what kind of company KDDI is. Okay? Okay, good. Okay, I'll skip that part then. Today's lecture will be consist of two parts. The first part will be the lessons on commercializing research. It's a little general, explanation about my job at my current company, KDDI Research. And I've learned a few things about not just research, but also making the research efforts practical. So in the first part, I would like to give a talk about that part to you. The second part is a little interactive part, which I would like to introduce very briefly what kind of research my research group is doing right now. And I want to make this a little like a group discussion kind of thing. So I'll explain about the technologies that we're working on, and I also want to collect a few ideas from you, since I've heard that you are all very capable students. So we always welcome good ideas from young people. So the second part will be a little like interactive brainstorming kind of lecture. So I'd like to start from my self-introduction. My name is Keiichiro Hoashi. It's a pretty unique, hard to read name actually in Japanese. My position at KDDI Research is a senior manager, and I am leading a group called the Intelligent Media Lab. And my main expertise are in various areas. I think the core of the work I've been doing is basically machine learning. And the applications I've been working on to develop using that technology is multimedia information retrieval analysis, and also social media analysis. I will briefly explain about these in the following slides. Other than the main research activities, I've been involved in a few other projects. One of them is the kicking off of our Silicon Valley office, which we decided to build a few years ago, and I was one of the members selected to go there and actually make the office. And I've also been involved in some like external activities, like Shido 2015, which is a government-sponsored project to educate, train innovators in general. So I was lucky enough to be selected as a member of that, and I made like business proposals and during the project, which is supported by METI, Keisansho in Japanese. And also I have been contributing some articles to a Japanese web media called ASCII. As you probably might know, this thing called AI is becoming a buzzword in the past few years, and I was asked to contribute some, not like research papers, but more like general articles which can give some kind of explanation, not too easy, not too complex explanations about what's going on in the AI world. The articles are in Japanese, so if you are fluent enough and interested, please search ASCII Hoashi, and I think you'll get a list of articles that I've provided there. Okay. So I would like to start with part one, which is the lessons on commercializing research. The objective of this part is for you to learn on my experiences and try not to be like me. So this is sort of like a counterintuitive thing. More seriously, what I want to tell you is learn what is necessary to make innovation from research. Research itself is a very difficult task, as you're probably know right now. But making the research efforts practical, like based on the research, making things that actually work, that actually will benefit some customer or something, that's a different problem. So early in my career, I didn't realize about that. So I would like to give an explanation about that, and hopefully you can learn to get a good balance between research and what's going on in, for example, the actual market and so on. But before we go through that, I'd like to start with a little exercise for you guys, which is this. So this is what we call an emotion curve line. The idea is very simple. So the y-axis here is the positive and negative, and the x-axis is the timeline. So maybe you can, since you are all young, you can maybe start with a 0, and go on to so I don't know how old you guys are, but maybe like 20 something, like that. So the idea is to draw a curve line like this, based on what you felt during this the period of your life here. So in the places where you feel good, you can draw a line like this, and in the periods when you didn't feel that good, you can draw a line like this, right? And then go all the way to the present. Pretty simple, right? Right? Hopefully. Okay. The idea that to do this is to discover some kind of mission of your lives. And one of the points about doing this is to discover, look back at your past experiences up until now, and then self-analyze the points where you felt good or felt bad, because those are the things, events that are like that form the core of whatever you are, whoever you are right now. And I'm not sure if we will have time, but maybe you can share the curve line with friends in the classroom right now, and find out what makes you happy and excited on the positive side, or sad and disappointed on the negative side. So I'll give you 3 minutes from now. Those of you who have paper, just draw a line according to the timeline. If there's no paper, you can, well, it's a pretty simple thing, so you can draw on whatever gadget you have. So I'll start my timer here, and I'll give you time to draw your line. Okay. Here. Okay. Everyone finished? It's not that difficult, right? Okay. Okay, then can you find anyone nearby and just give a brief explanation about your curve line to whoever's sitting next to you? You don't have to like disclose like really private. You just want to have you discuss about the curve line to your friends in the classroom. So so you can explain about yourselves, and maybe you can join that table down there. Okay, time's up. Okay. So back to the lecture. This is gets kind of fun when you, start discussing about this. But anyway, I would like to go back to the talk. By the way, the curve line thing is will be part of your report for this class, so please keep that in mind. Okay, so here is my career timeline. I joined KDDI in '97, which is like over 20 years ago, kind of scary. And then I've been working in the lab since like now. And actually the example that I showed you was actually my curve line since I joined our company. And for this lecture, I would like to focus on this part where there's a lot of ups and downs. And also my experience here has sort of formalized what I am right now. Okay. Finally, the lessons on commercializing research. Okay, my career can be divided by myself into like 4 stages, and I would like to explain all of that, but I did that last year, and I ate up much more time than I would have liked to do. So I would like to focus on these parts here. And the lessons that I learned from all these experiences is what's important for innovation and what can researchers do to innovate. So I'll talk about that by looking back on my experiences. So I'll skip this part and go on to the stage 2 of my career, which is my experience in multimedia research. Here, this is actually the period where I met Ida Sensei in the first place. And what I was doing here was, initially I was doing research on text search. But then, this company called Google came up and we lost things to do. So we shifted from text to multimedia. And I ultimately got a PhD mainly based on that research. So one of the things that I participated in during that phase of research was this international workshop called TrekVid. TrekVid is Trek is, by the way, text retrieval, a conference for text retrieval. But this vid represents the video part. So this started like in 2003, which is probably a generation ago for you guys. And the ambition of this workshop was to develop research to analyze video. So what we worked on was like hours of, for example, CNN news videos, and we tried to develop technologies to discover, for example, what is actually going on in the videos. The tasks were like to retrieve portions of the video which people were shaking hands, for example, or playing tennis, which is still a challenging task, but this is way before deep learning and those kind of things. So it was a very challenging task back then. Our company has continuously participated in TrekVid since its very early years, starting from 2003, and these abbreviations represent some tasks that were going on within the TrekVid workshop. So SBD is shot boundary detection, which is to detect cut points within the video when cameras change, for example. That's very, very basic, technology, but is necessary to analyze any kind of video because, we can't give out search results based on just a 1-hour video, right? So we participated in that, and we were pretty good there. SS is story segmentation, which is to automatically divide the news video into individual stories. So as you know, TV news programs consist of various stories within the program. And the idea was to automatically detect where a story starts and ends, and the next story starts. So that was what we did here. And also, this is CBCD is content-based copy detection, which is, I think, still a very legitimate issue in, for example, like YouTube, where people upload illegal, like recorded TV programs or movies. So the idea here was to automatically detect a duplicate of a video from hours of video segments. So we participated ourselves, and also we did some joint research with some universities in Japan, and we got some pretty good results on the way. And I was back then, in these days, I was mainly involved in the story segmentation task. And these are the results. The different colored shaped icons represent each organization. And the graph here is the recall and precision. So simply said, the more closer to the upper right corner of the graph, the better the results. And we were here. So we were the best in this year in this task, which we were pretty happy about. All the other competitors were like National University of Singapore and CMU, and I'm not sure if IBM participated in this specific task, but very famous universities around the world, and we were able to beat them on this specific year in task. And of course we got a journal paper out of that. And that was around here. So it might be kind of curious why this is happening during in my emotional curve line. And or maybe it was around here, I think. But anyway, there is a dip in my emotion here. And the reason behind this is the difficulty of commercializing research, which was my main job when I got sort of like promoted from researcher to research manager. Because as a company, we need not just to write good papers, but to make things that actually work, actually maybe bring some profit to our company, and so on. So it was during this part of my career which I had to work on not just research, but also making that research and deploying it to the world. So what we did back then was based on the world's number one technology, story segmentation. We built this commercial prototype software. And this is just the demo, but so the idea is the user will upload or input a video, and then based on our technology, we can automatically segment the video into individual stories, and since it's a computer doing these things, there are some kind of mistakes, over segmenting and missing some segments. So the user can provide some kind of feedback to the system, which the system will learn on and improve the segmentation results from that point on. We actually exhibited this at the Consumer Electronics Show, which is a big event which is held every January, I think, in Las Vegas. Do you know what this is? Yeah, okay. So it's a huge event, and we exhibited it there, and we also made some proposals to TV stations, and so we obviously made some proposals to the Japanese TV networks, and also I got the opportunity to go on a sales trip to places like CNN, well, because it was their video that we were working on. So I thought, we thought that they would make use of this kind of application. However, this was not accepted by anyone. Everyone thought it was a cool kind of technology, and we know you're number one in the world, but maybe not today. That was the general response that we got from all these companies. So, looking back at this kind of failure, we did some fault analysis. So, in the case of this news story viewer, which is not a good product name, by the way, but when we built it, what we thought was a good technology, but the actual users wanted different things. First of all, of course the big broadcasters need 100% accuracy, right? And which is like impossible. And they were not also willing to provide that relevance feedback, the training data that we were planning to work on to improve the performance of our application. They also wanted to integrate the technology with the systems that they were using to organize their videos and broadcast the programs, and ultimately, they thought it would be cheaper to buy the metadata if they really thought it was necessary. So, that makes sense when you look back, because the technology is it's pretty good, but it's it's kind of faulty, and in order to use that in the real environment, they felt they needed to tolerate a lot of things, which they didn't want to do. So looking back, the customers that we thought were potential buyers of our technology had many problems that they wanted to solve. But our research was not the exact thing that they wanted. But the research side of this was good. It was number one, based on a public data collection, and also we got a good journal paper published. But these kind of things are different from what the paper reviewers would like. So so the reason there was a dip there in my motion timeline was this kind of feeling, because the efforts that I need to put in to make research papers are going in a different direction. So so in order to make things practical, we needed to do different things. And time and resources, those are things that are very limited. So it was a pretty frustrating period in my career. So next, I would like to go on to the pivoting part, which is the stage 3. I realize I skipped stage 3, but anyway, from the research to research manager to maybe an innovator right now. So so I would like to start by explaining what happened here when we built our office in Silicon Valley. So this was a very good experience for me, and I'm still appreciating my company for giving me this experience back then. So anyway, what we did is our president suddenly decided that we need an office in Silicon Valley, and we decided to borrow a place at this place called the Plug and Play Tech Center, which is sort of like a big incubation center where a lot of startup companies borrowed their offices, and also big corporates like us and other big companies from other countries. From Japan. Of course, there's a lot of companies in the U.S. that were residing here, And there were also the venture capitalists who were funding these startups and connecting these startups with the corporate people. So, so this building itself was a small like Silicon Valley. We had the investors, the startups, the corporates, and I think there was a few like government people there too. And this is the team of 3 that were sent there back then. And since I was the oldest person within these 3, I was chosen to take charge of this Silicon Valley project. And what we did there was we set 3 missions to about what we should be doing in our Silicon Valley office. So, so mission 1 was to deploy our technology to the U.S. or maybe the global market. Mission 2 was to accelerate our research activities by collaborating with cool companies in the Silicon Valley area. And mission 3 was to scout interesting companies and technologies, and if we find some cool companies there, our job was to introduce them to the headquarters in Tokyo, and maybe we can do a joint development project, or maybe some people in the corporate will actually be interested enough to fund those startups, or maybe acquire them to be used in the business of KDDI, the company. And the 3 members were mainly like in charge of like mission 1, mission 2, and mission 3. And this was a very short project. I think back then we didn't have any idea of what a corporate research institute can do in Silicon Valley. So these 3 missions were like everything we thought we could do by sending employees to the area. Ultimately, we decided to focus on the 3rd mission because this is the mission that made most sense. I mean, since we're there, we should be collaborating with the people that are doing interesting stuff there, and not to like accelerate our activities or deploy our technologies, because that's very difficult with a very few staff. So ultimately we started focusing on the technology scouting side of mission 3. So I was there with my team, and we had a bunch of meetups with the startup people there. These are snapshots of actual people that we met back then. These people are the people who were very kind of intelligent, and they were actually making innovations that changed the market, changed the world, those kind of things. I mean, but these guys are like really startups right now. Of the giants like Google and Facebook, they're also from the area, but they all started from a single or founder or a team of a few members who decided that whatever business idea they had was going to change the world. So these people were all like energetic people who had a clear mission in mind, and were fun to talk with, because it's very different from the people which we usually interact with like within our company. So this picture here is a big startup event called TechCrunch Disrupt, where like thousands of people gather and listen to the pitch talks that the startups make. And also there are some guest talkers who are invited to go on stage and have a a presentation or a panel discussion with whoever. And this is the former CEO of Yahoo, Melissa Mayer, which was pretty famous back then. People like Mark Zuckerberg also talked on the stages of these events. Now, one very interesting experience happened when I was listening to these talks during TechCrunch Disrupt, which is a few years ago, but this actually happened. So, so this was a session called Office Hours, which this man in the middle, Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator, which is a very famous incubation program, organization, which selects startups and then trains them in a 3-month period, and then ultimately those startups will grow very fast after the programs. So he knows a lot about startup business, and the idea of this office hours is to randomly choose from a bucket of startup companies, and the chosen company can go on stage and have a I think like a 6-minute talk with Paul Graham about what they're doing, and then then he'll give some advice, or he'll say a lot of bad things about the businesses, those kind of things. So it was a lot of people got upstage and got roasted in the public, which happens all the time in Silicon Valley actually. So this person in the left here is I think a CEO of a startup which from Taiwan, I think. So and he was I think a professor or a associate professor at a Taiwan university, and his business was to build the next search engine kind of thing. So he had developed some technologies about image analysis and those kind of things, which will make Google a little better. So that was his idea. And as soon as he started talking about those things, the man in the middle, Paul Graham, started saying this. This is what he actually said. So you're saying that this is commercialized research? Ouch! That's what it says. It's often a solution in search of a problem. That's this is what he said. And this when I heard this, what I recalled was everything that I did back until that time. The news story segmentation problem, or the other research I will not explain today. I did some research in music retrieval and also the text research, which I was doing before that. All those things were solving problems that were worthy of research papers, but it's the solution and the self-defined problems were there, but those were not actual problems. So that's what he was trying to say here. I have to praise this guy because he didn't flinch even a bit about that, and started still continued to push his talk. But ultimately, the 6 minutes passed, and he just got roasted on stage. So. Not just based on that experience, but also from talking to all these startup companies in Silicon Valley, we learned some precious lessons. And the main lesson was that successful business-wise people, what they do is they try to find the pain point of actual users first. It's pretty simply said, but this is actually difficult when you think about it. So when they find a critical pain point, what they do next is to find technology which solves the problem. So the idea is that the pain point, since it's there, it has to be solved immediately. So the idea is if there's any technology out there which could be used to solve that problem, then that should be done first. And if there is no such technology, then they start developing new stuff. So simply said, new technology is not a must for success in the business area. Okay? Now, which is, might sound obvious, but it's actually difficult, when we consider that ourselves are a research company, because our job is to develop new technology. Okay, so back to the curve line. So anyway, I had a lot of fun there, so here's when I was at Silicon Valley. But by the way, my period there was unfortunately very short. I was only there for 6 months, and then they decided to bring me back to Japan after our company discovered that maybe this office might work. So we decided to change the guy who started all this. It's kind of strange decision, but anyway, so that was that. So anyway, I was having fun there. But when I came back to Japan, it goes straight down like this. So what happened here? So the idea, the difficult problem now that I've discovered all these things about how people in Silicon Valley do things is that how can we as researchers discover such opportunities? Okay, and so the Silicon Valley kind of idea is very simple, and I think it's very correct. But when we go back to our daily jobs, we as researchers need to make new things, because that's what we're paid to do for. So the things like journal papers, patents, international conferences, those kind of things, those are the KPIs that we still have within our company. At the same time, the researchers in general are very distant from the actual users. Unless we develop something, we will probably not be invited to have meetings with like TV stations, for example. The state of mind that the people in our company have is that since we are a research institute, we should not be developing business. So we should be focusing on this, and the task of developing a business based on that technology is business for the business departments. So in our case, KDDI Corporation. So this might lead to the bad conclusion that the Silicon Valley style innovation cannot be applied to our way of doing R&D within a company. And this is not just a KDDI problem. This is a very general problem which occurs all over the world. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these expressions like Devil River and Death Valley and Darwinian Sea. These are the obstacles from basic research to actually making a business from based on that research. So there's a gap here between research and development. In research, we need to explore a lot of things. Most of those things don't work. Some of them actually do. So this is a stage here. But in order to make a development to maybe, like for example, make a proof of concept like test application, we need to go over this river, which has a lot of problems. And then when the proof of concept actually works in a test environment, we need to go over this thing called Death Valley, which is a different thing, with different issues to make it a commercial thing. So this is like business development, right? This is like good basic research. This is like developing things to make it practical, and this is to develop a business from the practical technology. And ultimately, we have to survive things like competitors to make this an actual industry. So as researchers, what should we do? I mean, should we go all the way from this to this by ourselves or not? This is a difficult question which has no, single correct answer. There's a lot of situations going on which will make you go over these by yourself or not. But you have to think about this, when we do research, especially in a corporate company, corporate research institute. So, but what we can do, the minimal thing we can think about is not just the research, but also how to go over this Devil River, or the gap between research and development. And there are various ways to find what actual problems are between the research and development, and introduce these things later on. But first of all, the one good activity is to show off the research, not just to the peers, but also people who, potential customers, or maybe even people who don't know anything about the technology sets that you're working on. And the second point is to be open-minded. People make suggestions or say things that may not make sense, but those are actual people with actual problems. So you have to be open-minded enough to accept those kind of things. And the final thing is to not ignore the easy-looking problems that are actually here. So I'll go through these three items from now. First of all, showing off research this is actually pretty simple. All you have to do is to think about how to do this. If you're in a engineering field, I think this is pretty intuitive. The good way to show off a research is to make a demo. So there's a statement called demo or die, which is one of the key messages of MIT Media Lab. So this is one thing. So the idea is making sophisticated papers are good, but it's always good to make something. Maybe like a concept video might be enough. So the idea is to put that research into action, and to be able to show it to anyone who's interested in your work. The second part is to spread it. This was difficult, but it's pretty easy now, since there's the internet is all over the place, and there's all kinds of ways to spread your ideas. If you can make an app, a smartphone app, for example, you can put it on the market and find out how actual people use whatever technology you have. So this is deploy or die, which is the next key message of MIT Media Lab. And to whom? This is also a good thing to consider. Making demos and showing off to your professors is okay, and I think it's very comfortable. But since they are supporters of your research activities, they will try to say like positive things about that. But that's not the point here. The point is that in order to collect actual voices, you need to be able to show it off to anyone. So as I said, potential customers are a good audience. Non-academia people, maybe people in business departments in our case, those kind of things, or non-tech, friends, so those people won't appreciate the the things like the technologies about like for example like deep learning, those kind of things. They don't know shit about that. They will have some comments about what's going on right in front of them, and if that links to a actual problem, then that might be the good way to proceed when you decide what the next step will be about whatever research project you're working on right now. And this leads to the second point, which is to be open-minded. Being open-minded means accepting all kinds of comments and suggestions. So people might say, bad things. I mean, I don't understand what you're trying to do. I mean, this is a very boring application. I will not use it again. Those kind of things. And it's pretty easy to ignore those kind of things because you probably won't feel good when you hear those kind of things. But those are actual comments. So the idea about showing demos is to find an audience that show no mercy to you. This should be welcome. This is, I think, the main reason why the Taiwanese guy got on stage and got creamed from a very famous investor, because those are the precious comments that you will probably get from an actual market. And also, the next important way of thinking is to not dwell on your initial idea, because it's probably not good. People do this. I mean, like researchers always do this kind of thing because they put a lot of effort in their research activities, so they want to use this and they want to deploy this technology. But if this is not solving any real problems, then all you're going to get out of that is a research paper, right? Which is I know which is very meaningful for you right now, but if you want to do anything with that, with your efforts, then you need to change your mind about what and based on what people say about your applications. And the third point is to not ignore the easy problems because they're actual problems. So what I mean by easy here is the problems which will not be of value in a research viewpoint, right? So in typical research papers, you have to define a difficult-looking problem and work to solve the problems, and that will be the core of the paper. But that problem is sophisticated, and it's you feel good because you're solving a difficult problem. But when you go over that river, there's actually many problems that are very boring, but needed to be overcome. So those are the problems which that should be focused on when you develop a practical application from research. So, given that, I would like to explain about a actual project that went on within our research group. This is a social media, Twitter analysis tool, which we made by using technologies like natural language processing and machine learning, those kind of things. So what the system does is it collects tweets from Twitter, and then it analyzes the tweets. It does things like sentiment analysis, which I think everyone's doing right now. The positive, negative emotions within the tweets, and also what we did alongside that was to derive the demographics of the users who were tweeting them. So by analyzing the actual tweets of a user, we can make a pretty good guess about who they are, like their gender, or their approximate age, or maybe their occupation, or maybe their hobbies, those kind of things. And that information is typically very, it takes a lot of cost to collect that kind of information because we have to ask people to give their private information, and answer questionnaires about, for example, a KDDI service or something like that. But using this technology, we can instantly observe that a service is regarded positive for young female users, for example. So the initial use case that we had in mind about this was a tool for market analysis. So we wanted the business department to use this and input, for example, like AU or any other service, and then in their daily work use that information to develop new ideas for new services and so on. That's what we had in mind when we started this. Now we did some showing off in a internal exhibition within our company. So we do this every twice a year. We have a exhibition which the KDDI research shows off their achievements to people in the KDDI corporation. So it's an internal open house kind of thing. And what we're showing here is the Twitter analysis tool, and this intimidating man in the middle is the CEO president of KDDI Corporation, and he saw what we were doing back then. We thought this will be a good market analysis tool, and we made a presentation like that. But the actual problem that he had in mind was to use this technology to check the quality of the mobile network, which is a very important, critical problem within the company, because smartphones have been out, and so the devices, like the iPhones, right now all three major carriers in Japan are providing the same products, and so the only thing that makes a differentiation between those companies are the quality of the network. So maintaining or improving the quality of the network is the critical problem that KDDI had. We needed to beat our competitors like Docomo and SoftBank about network quality, because that's the only reason that they will switch from them to us. So from the market analysis tool, this suddenly became a network monitoring tool, and during the developments, there were a lot of problems that happened. So some of the problems were since this was not a research development, this is a development for actual business people. They had their own rules and their own situations. For example, very strict restrictions on software environments. So we were using Python, which is a good programming language to build text analysis and machine learning kind of things. But they didn't know what the hell this was. So they wanted to build the thing on for example, Java, which is a very has Oracle, has a big company, Oracle, which supports the environment. So that was what they wanted. There was also limitations about the internal network which we were using on. So the network management, the entire system is internal, of course, and it's not connected to the public. But the Twitter is on the web, so in order to bring that information and analyze it and connect it with our network analysis system, we needed to connect the internet and our intranet, which back then was a thing which we have not done before. Also, we needed to delete a lot of functions because they didn't have the budget to do that. And also, and this is kind of weird, we needed to find actual users. I mean, it was they who looked at our technology and said this might be used for network management. But in order to justify the budget to develop that system, we needed to find people other than the network management people. So in order to get the approval to the internal approval to develop the system. So we needed to do a lot of sales actually. We needed to go around the business departments and find people who were interested in using the system when it gets deployed. So these are you can't make research papers on this, right? But these were the problems which we needed to solve in order to make our core technology practical. And the happy ending is that this tool is used in the actual environment. This is just a screenshot, so our tool is not here, but it's used as valuable information to monitor our network. I do have to say that these alert systems that we have work very well, but some incidents happen to our network, or maybe not directly to our network, which can be more efficiently discovered by analyzing Twitter information. For example, like when Facebook goes down, people complain to AU because it's for them it's like it's KDI's fault that Facebook is down. That doesn't make sense, but people actual people are using actual smartphones, and when they cannot connect to something, it's the carrier's fault. So those things happen, and when you analyze the tweets, that those things are happening, which cannot be monitored by our existing systems. So even Twitter is very valuable in this case. And as we said, we aspire to maintain high quality of our network, so we need to use any information possible to improve that network. Okay, so the reason of success in this case was we showed off to the right people at the right time, which is the internal demonstration. We did not avoid those boring issues like programming languages and other environments, and I was fortunate to have received a lot of cooperation from the members within our group back then. For example, this part was actually going to various departments within our company and pitching the technology and asking them for their interest. That's just like salesperson talk. But there was a member who gladly appreciated and accepted that role, and ultimately took care of those problems. So these things will be in our case was actually necessary to make the development practical. Okay. One other thing which I would like to add here was a joint project which we did with a Silicon Valley startup company. This is a company called Flexi. Maybe I can show a video of their application, which is pretty intuitive. So this is a couple of years ago. So their idea was to build a keyboard application for smartphones, which can accept mistaken inputs. So based on the approximate position of the taps and a swipe action, the application can guess the correct word, so that people won't have to re-input every mistakenly input word. And this is a concept video, but it actually works back then. So anyway, this was a few years ago, but this is an app that still exists right now. Okay, so we decided that developing a Japanese version of this will be pretty cool. So that's what we did. And one thing that we were very impressed about was the speed of Silicon Valley. I mean, you've probably heard stories about that. But this is what actually happened during the development phase. So internally, we did get a go sign within our company to start the joint development project. But we needed to do some paperwork to actually get that internal approval. But we told Flexi that, we do have approval. All we need to do is pass this paper to the important people and have them push their hankos on, the work. So what's your status? We asked, and they said, oh yeah, oh that's great, that's good news. So we'll start finding Japanese engineers for this project. And it was like, what? They decided to do this before they had anyone in the company which can understand Japanese. You're starting from there? Okay. It's kind of surprising because we thought they were prepared for that. But anyway, since this was like unofficially approved, we did have to go on with the paperwork. So ultimately, we had our CTO back then to sign the contract, and what they were doing was job interviews during this phase. Okay, and ultimately we got the contract signed and sent the contract to them, and then they signed back. This was an instant because they only had like 3 people, and at the same time they decided to hire the guy that they somehow found during this like 2-week period. Okay, very good. All right, since everything is now inked on paper, we decided to hold a kickoff meeting, which is a Skype meeting, and maybe discuss about the how we should proceed with this development project. Okay, and yeah, fair enough. And then they started development, and this was I think about a week or so or something like that. And then at the kickoff meeting, they right before the meeting, I think. By the way, we've already developed the first version, so why don't you take a look at that, and maybe we can discuss about where we should go from here. So this is the kind of speed that Silicon Valley companies are used to. So they didn't have anyone who understood Japanese until this point, but they somehow started development and were able to provide a first version at the kickoff meeting. So we appreciate them because they kind of trusted that nothing will happen within our company in this phase, and they were before the contract there is no official approval that we will pay them money to develop this, but they did it anyway. And of course, the first version didn't, work smoothly. I mean, it was very slow, and it didn't even change the correct kanji for very simple words. But it somehow worked, and after this, there were several months, but we were able to release the Japanese version of the of the app, which is. Hopefully we'll play here. This is a very shabby video of my fingers and the actual application. So if you understand Japanese, you can see that the app can accept mistyping and also do the kanji henka very smoothly. Right? Okay. So it actually worked, and this was sorry. Okay, and it was very good. This person, which I think Japanese people know about, he mentioned it in a tweet, and we appeared on the trends, the Twitter trends in Japan, and this was very huge. So this was a very successful joint development project between us and Silicon Valley. So that was a good experience, but the lesson from this experience was what what they were before they started this company were image analysis researchers. So they were doing research very similar to what I was doing before the Silicon Valley experience. And so, the research kind of mind will say, how can I improve image analysis? That's, I think, the typical mind of researchers. But what they did was they discovered this problem on smartphones that people have a bad experience typing text on smartphones. And they decided that maybe the technology that they were working on can be used to solve this problem. So their way of thinking, which is very typical of Silicon Valley startups, is to find the problem to solve, the actual problem of actual users. That should be prioritized more than whatever expertise that they have. And of course they were very quick in developing the prototype and somehow getting the funds to make the English versions and also developing the Japanese version. So anyway, but this way of thinking, I mean, I discovered this on a chat on a casual chat that we had during those meetings, and I was very surprised because we had similar backgrounds, but they were making innovative applications, and I was not so good at that. So I would like to lead to the wrap up right now. So currently I'm in a pretty good emotion state right now. And the reason because of that is that I kind of know what I want to do, which was not just plain research, but also making things, new things, and deploying them out into the real world. That's what I kind of discovered based on my experience in Silicon Valley and my other experiences after that. And also I might know, I can't say that I've succeeded in anything yet, but I may kind of know how I can achieve this. So one thing is that good research is still essential for everything, especially for a tech-oriented organization like us. Just building a simple app from existing pieces is important things, but it's not the thing we should be doing. We should still be focusing on good research. But just doing this is not enough. And especially in my position right now, I need to build a strategy to connect the good research to business, which is still an ongoing project within myself, but I'm starting to gain good experience about how this will work successfully. Okay, so the wrap up of part 1 of my lecture is to the answers to these questions. One is what is essential for innovation? There's obviously a lot of things, but the most important problem is to find actual problems of actual users. That should be the starting point of anything. And the next question is what can or what should researchers do to innovate? We need to find these, so we need to be aware of actual people. Not be too focused on just the research. Those things are necessary, but it's very worthy to take time and think about or observe what actual people are doing. The second part is to show off your research in any way possible. Making a demo app, make a video, those kind of things are good to be able to be aware of actual people and find actual problems. And if you're the kind of guy who wants to focus on research, but wants to also to make it practical, there may be some other people around you who can provide help about that. So, and this is the thing that good startup founders do. They don't try to solve everything by themselves. If you need a good salesperson, for example, you can find them, or you should be finding them. if you just want to focus on research. So anyway, don't be self-contained. Just show off. Find people who are maybe like more willing to put out your research to the world. There are people out there. So this is another good approach. And the final message is to get out of the comfort zone. In academia, it might be your nearby students, or maybe your professor, or the academic conferences. I'm not saying those are not good people, but in order to discover things, non-academic problems, you need to go out of academia. If you need to find non-technical issues, you need to get out of the technical field. And those fields are the comfort zone, and the important message is to get out of that. If you feel that your research efforts are in a good status right now. Okay, all right. So I think I did a little better than last year about my time management. So I would like to wrap up here. If there's any questions about this part, please raise your hand. Yeah.
Thank you. Just now you said we need to accept all your comments and suggestions. So how do you distinguish between good comments or not?
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a very good question. The question was, how to distinguish good comments from not so good comments, maybe. That is the easy but maybe hard way to do that is to collect lots of comments. So if a lot of people say the same thing, then that's probably a issue which you should be considering. Another thing is to find, to not just like randomly show off, your efforts, but to show off to people which have some kind of experience in, developing business, for example. Because they, I didn't talk anything about the economical things like the market and those kind of things. But ultimately, any product has to make economical sense. So if you want advice on that, you probably will have a better chance if you're asking people in corporates than asking students for those. So I think the idea is to be diverse about how to about asking questions or receiving comments, and also collecting the amount of comments is also worthwhile, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for your interesting talk. So what about page 32? You showed 3 points what we have to do as a researcher.
Yeah.
And I want to know, what have you experienced the actual things as
Yeah.
a easy problem? I want to hear some.
This one?
Yeah.
This one? Well, for example, one of the examples was the the Python thing. I'm not saying easy is not like easy. It's more like boring, problem. So these kind of things. I mean, how to connect the internal network to the internet. Those kind of things are like actual problems which needed to be solved, but I will probably not solve by myself because it's worthless, right? To develop this technology. So that's one example. There's a lot of examples, and this is another thing. I mean, deleting things which are unnecessary. This is like very painful because people put a lot of effort in those cool-looking graphs that were the part of the application. But if the customer says they don't need it, and sorry, we don't have the budget to improve that part, we have to cut it off. Those are the problems, which I was kind of referring to in this part. Okay, anything else? Okay. Okay, so maybe we can take like a 10-minute break from here. Sorry, I just wanted to show the lab during the curve line, and as I said, yeah, maybe I should emphasize on this part. Yeah. So sorry. Yes. Okay. So what I learned from this was that making new things and developing and deploying them to the world is, what I feel happy about. That's an example of a discovery in the curve line. Maybe there's things that there's some missions that can be derived from the points when you go down. These kind of points are the points that should be considered. May lead to the discovery of what you want to do in your career. So there is no good mission, bad mission, not that kind of thing. But the idea is to sort of look back on your lives and discover, maybe self-discover what you want to do. So anyway, the report is to just hand in the curve line and some additional information about that, and also come up with a description of what you think right now might be a thing which is worth devoting your life to. Okay, all right. So we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll start part 2 from 11:35. Okay? Thank you.